And you know what? We are going to start with the only position, I think, on the defensive side of the ball that might have a top 10 pick, and that is your pass rushers, your edge guys. It really would be a shocker if we see any other position go in the top 10. And so let's stop. We're kind of looking at our CBS Sports prospect, kind of going down that list, our prospect rankings. And so we're going to start at the top there with Dallas Turner, the Alabama star. Dudes, what do you think of him, and where do you think the best fit is?
Yeah, highest upside in regards to the edge rushers breach. When you look at him, nobody has a better long arm as far as speed, the power to get to the quarterback. Does a really good job just destroying tight ends against the run. There'll be times you turn the film on, Brees, and the defense doesn't line up, and the offense will try to get the defense off kilter by snapping the ball while the defense is moving around. And you see him just decimate a tight end and make a play in the backfield. We saw the athletic ability at the combine. I want to say he ran somewhere in the 4.5s. We see the ability to drop in coverage. To me, has the highest upside as well. Do you want to give your team, or should I give my team where I think he should go?
You go. You go first.
I think, and you stated this perfectly, Brees, when you look at all the defensive players, there's probably only going to be one, maybe two go in the top 10. I think at pick number 8, the Atlanta Falcons make the most sense for Dallas Turner. When you look at what Arnold Ebiketie did last year and him having a second-year growth in his development, playing really well, and then Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata inside, Raheem Morris, defensive-minded coach, needs a guy like Dallas Turner to really build this defense around. Like, this was a defense that was a top 10 defense for most of the season. Now, towards the back end of the season, kind of sloughed off, and I think they end up finishing somewhere in the teens. But you talk about Jesse Bates at the the safety position. Talk about AJ Terrell at the cornerback position. You need another edge guy to really solidify this defense. I think Dallas Turner to the Falcons makes too much sense.
Yeah, and we saw the Falcons kept acquiring offensive players, whether it was Kirk Cousins, Rondale Moore, Darnell Mooney. And it was like, oh, they have this defensive genius as their head coach. When's he going to go after his edge guy? And It does feel like he was kind of waiting for the draft. I am going to do my best. I am not going to send any guy to where Deuce is sending them. So I'm going to just throw a team out there that Deuce didn't say. And I am going to go with the Bears here. I think you look at this is a team that needs pass rushing help. My only hesitation there is you look at that 9th overall pick. I could absolutely see them taking a wide receiver. But if there's a receiver,
that's an interesting conversation. Why do you think they should take a receiver at 9?
Well, I think you look at Keenan Allen is only under contract through 2024. So he's likely gone after this season. And then you have a one punch. You don't have a 1-2 punch. You have one guy. And if you're drafting Caleb Williams number 1 overall, which I assume we agree on that, right?
Correct.
You want to make sure you have some weapons for him, because you can't put him in a spot where he's going to struggle or where he gets frustrated, where he hates his coaching staff, or where he's complaining that he doesn't have weapons. So I just think it's a delicate balance when you take that quarterback number 1 overall, that you almost feel compelled to add another weapon. I think it's 50-50. That's why I'm putting Dallas Turner in Chicago, because I absolutely think that pass rushing is more important, but I could see them taking a receiver.
And I'm glad you finished the statement by saying that, because when you look at what they did for Montez Sweat and trading for him, I know a lot of people, kind of scruffed and gruffed at that trade, giving up a 2nd-round pick. And I stated it firmly on, Spotlight. I said, when you trade a guy for a 2nd-round pick, you're going to be doing future business with him. And boy, did they do future business with Montez Sweat, signing him into the extension. But it's what he did, the mindset that he brought over with that Chicago Bears defense, right? This was a defense that was really good against the run. They were number 1 against the run last year in run defense. And this was a team, when he got there, it kind of transcended on defense, right? Last 6 weeks of the season, Brees, they were the top scoring defense. They were 1 in interceptions, and they were 1 in regards to giving up rushing touchdowns, right? This is why I think it makes a lot of sense, for the Bears to go edge as well instead of receiver, because when you look at the offense, I don't think a number 1 or former number 1 pick could say that they were in a better situation than Caleb Williams is going into than the Chicago Bears, right? You got DJ Moore as a true number 1. You talked about Keenan Allen being only a 1-year deal. But let's not forget, they got Cole Kmet, who is a really good tight end, and they signed him to an extension. And they signed Gerald Everett. So I can see them going more 12 personnel as well, right? And then you talk about the offensive line. People are saying, why don't they take offensive tackle? I like Braxton Jones. I think he's a really good young offensive tackle. And they took Darnell Wright last year in the first round as well. So when you look on paper, like this is the best scenario a former or future number one pick will be going into, because not only have they really put things in place for him to succeed on offense, we didn't even talk about the three backs that they have, but on defense, this team can be led by his defense where he doesn't feel like he needs to be Superman because of how they finished the season. And if they were to add a edge guy at 9, I think makes a lot of sense just because Matt Eberflus, defensive-minded coach, you can take this defense to the next level.
Well, and you know what's funny is I'm kind of smiling here if you're watching on YouTube because our next guy is Jared Verse, a pass rusher. And as you can clearly see by Deuce talking for the past 60 seconds, he clearly believes the Bears need to take a pass rusher at number 9 overall. So, Deuce, I think we can all predict where you have Jared Verse going.
Yeah, I have him going number 9 right after Dallas Turner going 8 to the Falcons. I got Jared Verse going 9 to the Chicago Bears, and it's for everything I just stated, right? Montez Sweat helped transform this defense, right? This is an elite defense, and now you can add a bookend on the other side who's going to fit in personality-wise perfect with the Chicago Bears and what they want to be. They want to be a tough-nosed, gritty defense. That's exactly what Jared Verse is. Brees, his whole game starts with power. Like there's games you turn on the film where he doesn't actually sack the quarterback, but he puts the tackle on top of the quarterback, and that's how the quarterback gets sacked. Like his speed to power is night and day better than everybody's in this draft. But the thing that I really love about him, Brees, is that he could have came out last year and been probably a middle of the round, first round pick, but he came back and honed his game. Like last year was all speed to power, straight bull rush. Now he has some counters off of it. So you can tell the game means something to him. And then when you turn on the film, you constantly see him running guys down from behind 20, 30 yards. He plays with extreme effort. And that's another thing that the Chicago Bears defense really does. So to me, the number 9 pick should be Jared Verse for the Chicago Bears.
And let me ask you this, because it does feel like Turner and Verse are kind of the consensus top 2 pass rushers in the draft. Do you have them in that order, Turner at 1 and Verse at 2, or do you think they're kind of interchangeable?
I think that's how I have it in that order. I know me and Ryan Wilson have talked about this. He kind of has Verse a little bit higher than Turner. I think the ceiling's a lot higher for Dallas Turner. I think we kind of know what Jared Verse is going to be, and that's not saying anything bad. It's kind of like Aiden Hutchinson and Trayvon Walker conversation. Like, I think the Jaguars, if they could go back, they would take Aiden Hutchinson 1 overall, even though he's a guy that's probably going to get 8 to 10 sacks every year and maybe not eclipse 15 or 16. But with Dallas Turner, I think the upside is what gives him the edge over Jared Verse.
All right, we've talked about Jared Verse from Florida State, Dallas Turner from Alabama. Let's move out to the West Coast and get a little Latu Latu from UCLA. Probably not going to be a top 15 pick, but it would be surprising if he fell out of the first round. I think he will end up being taken in the first round. Dudes, it looks like you have him going in the first round. Where do you have him going?
Yeah, and honestly, Brees, if it wasn't for the medical, if it wasn't even a question mark about the neck, he'd probably be my edge 1 because nobody rushes with a game plan better than Latu Latu. It's almost like he's a veteran when it comes to pass rushing and getting after the quarterback. He kind of reminds me of a jiu-jitsu warrior in regards to how many moves he throws to get to the quarterback, counters after counters after counters. And again, if it's not for the medical, he's probably my edge number 1 because he's one of those guys, Reese, where I'm not saying you can't get better coaching, but he's a guy from day one you can put out there on third down and say, go get the quarterback. And there's not much you got to do. Like, just go get the quarterback. Go do what you do. He's that type of guy. He has that type of hand usage. And the thing is, with that long arm length, he does a really good job of knocking tackles and tight ends back in the run game. So he's not a liability in the run as well. So I think the biggest thing for him, Brees, is the medical, right? How do teams feel about the neck, the past neck injury? If they're comfortable with it, I don't think he's not going to fall out the first round. But if teams are really comfortable with it, I think he should be a top 15 pick.
And so you have him in
Tampa Bay with the Bucks. They need some edge rush. They took Kalaji Kancey last year on the inside. Joe Tryon is a guy that they've really tried to see what kind of role they can find with him. Yaya Diaby was a rookie outside linebacker that played really well for them last year. I think you need a guy opposite of Diaby and let Joe Tryon be kind of like your swing guy, even though you took him late in the first round. I think a pairing of Yaya Diaby and Latu Latu make a lot of sense for Todd Bowles in that defense.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit last week about the Buccaneers and how much they need some pass rush help. And as you said, having someone like that kind of fall in their lap at 26, you would think they would turn that card in within 30 seconds.
Quickly.
Yeah, he's still on the board. I thought about sending him to Seattle. I think he'd be
I thought about that too.
But like you said, maybe that's a little bit too high because of the injury issues with Seahawks picking 16th overall. But I think you mentioned all the tools he had in his toolbox, how athletic he is, and Mike Macdonald has proven he's a very, very good defensive coach, and he knows what to do. He knows how to put his guys in a position to succeed. So I think that Latu in Seattle would be interesting. All right, let's get to the guy with the best name out of all the edge rushers. That is Chop Robinson out of Penn State. Dudes, what do you like about him, and where are you sending him?
Now, I want to preface this by saying I think I might have done this right before the Stephon Diggs trade. So the thing about Chop Robinson, no edge guy has a better first step get off in this draft than him. Freakish athletic, freak athlete, does a lot of things naturally in regards to bending and being able to bend that edge and get to the quarterback. Needs a lot of help in regards to hand usage. We talked about Latu Latu. It's the total opposite, right? Latu Latu has great hands, where Chop Robinson doesn't use his hands that well and kind of out athletic guys. But he also has a good speed to power move too. We see the lower body strength, right, in regards to speed to power. But he needs some help in his hand usage to get off that speed to power to get to the quarterback. And this one, I had him going to the Bills, but I would not be surprised if the Bills now, because of the Stephon Diggs trade, potentially trade up to try to get a guy like Brian Thomas. But they need edge help as well because Von Miller is getting up there in age. Struggled last year coming back from the injury. They did re-sign, I think, Epineza, but still, I think they need one more edge guy, and I think he fits the mold of what they're trying to do in regards to coming off the edge and getting to the quarterback with the Bills.
Yeah, and even after the Diggs trade, I don't think this is completely crazy to have him going there because, A, there's no guarantee the Bills are going to be able to move up and try and get a guy that they're kind of eyeballing. And
Correct.
Then if they sit there, you sit down at the bottom of the first round, you have the 28th overall pick. There's no guarantee the receiver you want is going to fall in your lap. If you're down
Correct.
to the sixth best guy on your board, are you going to take him or are you going to take your edge three, who would be Chop Robinson behind, say, Verse and Turner? So I think that he could absolutely still end up in Buffalo.